Hi guys, and welcome back to History Help for You. So we're going to be talking through Mary the First and her kind of religious policies, that being predominantly her attempted restoration of Catholicism. So her sort of restoration of Catholicism was kind of what she called a sacred obligation. She thought that she was destined to kind of fix England that Edward and Henry VIII had kind of butchered. Because of both her Spanish heritage, Spain being traditionally very Catholic, and her being brought up as quite a devout Catholic too. She thought her father's brutal Rome as catastrophic, and she wanted to return England to the true faith, because England had been Catholic for many, many years, even starting in Henry VII's time. That was kind of one of the consensuses at the time, that most people were Catholic, and she's trying to kind of revert to those ways, and believing that Protestants were heretics who needed to be rid of their sins, I think it was. So she burnt them, as you do. Yeah, she was initially cautious at first. She first came to the throne. I don't think she really wanted to be too kind of radical, but as you'll see, that plan kind of went out the window. And yeah, she initially ordered sort of Protestants to leave England, and then the legislation sort of trying to revert England back to Catholicism started in October 1553. This being with the first Act of Repeal. So this was this was an attempt which essentially reversed Edward VI's religious reforms. So everything that Edward did is basically now useless and worthless. So I bet he's happy seeing that. And the Mass was restored, the Catholic Mass, and also sort of the Catholic doctrine, validating her 6 articles. Yeah, I mean the traditional sort of worship aspect, but there was still no kind of attempt or reconciliation with the Pope yet. It was still kind of like Henry VIII in the sense that it was separate church but Catholic in teaching, and you still had the monarch as the supreme head. However, Mary herself didn't really call herself that because she believed the Pope was, but hadn't really tried reconciling with the Pope, who, as you'll find out soon, did not like her because she was Spanish. You also had the second Act of Repeal in April 1554. This is after Wyatt's Rebellion, that we'll find out in a few videos' time. Yeah, it repealed the Act of Supremacy that was under Henry VIII, declared him as the supreme head of the church. Mary obviously clearly did not agree with that. I believe that the Pope was, and yeah, invalidated that, and legally erased kind of the concept of royal supremacy, showing that the Pope yet again was a top dog. Yeah, doesn't really last that long. I had Cardinal Pole. She's one of Mary's kind of closest advisors, along with her husband Philip. He was the papal legate, and he kind of came to oversee the reconciliation, and he formally absolved England from schism in 1554. However, a sort of big issue, obviously after the dissolution of the monasteries, a lot of the sort of land was sold off, and now Parliament refused to kind of restore this. A lot of sort of church land had been sold off, sort of fund Henry VIII's lifestyle, I guess you could say. But yeah, Parliament sort of refused to restore this, and so now the church had kind of less power and less influence, because during that time land meant power and influence and money. And so yeah, this kind of skewed sort of marriage plans. This is just a bit of a summary. The reconciliation, and you also had, as we're about to see, the heresy laws being revived in 1555. She revived this thing. I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation. The heretico comparendo. Do not judge that. And it kind of showed that heresy was kind of on the same sort of level as treason, because it denied both royal and divine order and law. And so, to sort of prevent and cleanse the soul from the corruption of heresy, Mary thought that you could just burn people to save her. So I mean, she was trying to help in a way, I guess you could say, but it's certainly a strange way to do it. And authorities kind of looked to like key Protestant figures that had been influential during Edward's bishops and clergy. So specifically, like kind of like Latimer, Ridley, and Cranmer too. I wanted to get rid of those, them being sort of Protestant leaders, I guess you could say. So about 284 people, I think it was, including Cranmer, Latimer, Ridley. Well, they weren't executed. That should be changed. They were burnt on the stake. In attempt to cleanse their kind of the spirit. However, this kind of backfired for Mary, in the sense that the burning of the Protestant heretics, it made them martyrs for the sort of Protestant cause, and this kind of made a lot of sympathy and empathy towards Protestants who were kind of treated as, I guess you could say, like the victim in the sort of situation. And yeah, and that's kind of one of the reasons she has the nickname Bloody Mary. As you'll see when we look at the economical stuff, she does quite a lot to sort of fix the economy, but that is kind of overlooked by this because of kind of how questionable it was, how kind of not kind of dangerous. Like you said, you're burning people, but kind of how like savage, I guess you could say, it was perceived to be at the time. She's burning people alive. Not really the nicer things to do. And I think it was in the space of like 5 years that she was doing it. Burning about 280 people in the space of 5 years. Quite a lot of people per year. But yeah, she's kind of remembered more for that than anything else really. But yeah, I shall keep working through Mary the First, and I'll see you on the next video.